Today we're going to tie the Muddler minnow, and the Muddler is easily identified because it has all Muddlers have this spun deer hair collar and head that's trimmed to look like a sculpin, and then the original Muddler minnow has tricky wings back here and a tail and a tinsel body, and that's what makes it look like a sculpin that you'll find in rivers and lakes and even in the salt water. So let's get a hook and a vise and we'll get this going. So the hook I'm using is a 4x long, 3 extra heavy, size 6. That's what we're going to tie this on today. We're going to be using 2 different threads. I'm going to start with a 14-aught, which is somewhere in the, around 70 denier, 60-70 denier. And then we're going to finish off, when we spin the deer hair, we're going to go to a 136 denier. So it's a little heavier, so it makes the spinning the deer hair a little bit easier. The tail and wing is going to be these matched turkey feathers. There's a right and a left. And I'll show you how we're going to cut those slips off. The underwing is squirrel tail. The body is large gold mylar. You can use a regular gold tinsel, but mylar is a lot easier to work with because it's a little more flexible. It's a little more forgiving. And then we're going to use some deer hair for the head and the collar. Now, something I do to make trimming the deer hair easier is I take this regular straight razor and I bend it in the middle so that I can break it off, and then I only use half of this blade, and I use these little notches as measuring guides, and I'll show you how I do that when I cut the slip off the feather. Okay, so we'll start our thread base, and we want to leave room for the head and the collar, so we'll come back here about a quarter of the way back, and we'll lay down a nice little thread base. And I'll stop here at about the where the barb would have been before I crimped it down. All right, now we'll take the feather and the notches, and we want the slip to be about the width of that notch. So if you see on this feather, there's a long side, or a short side and a long side. So we'll take the tail off this short side. So we'll just come up here and we'll cut this right to the notch, like that, and then kind of lift it up, and there I have one slip. And I'll do that on the other side. I'll just lay it in here, cut till I get to the notch, pull it away, and I have my other slip. So I have the 2 mirrored slips, and what I've done is lined up to tips so that they're even. And I'm going to set them in here so they're just past the bend of the hook a little bit. And actually I'm going to turn these up because I like to have the tails up. So we're going to go like this. The tails are facing up. And we're going to come in with one loose wrap, and then we'll come in with a second wrap, and we'll pull straight down while holding the tips nice and tight so they stay on top of the hook. And we'll make another wrap, and then gradually increase pressure as we work our way forward on the hook. It's important we want to keep this on top. We want to maintain this nice smooth body because that'll make a difference on when we put the tinsel on. So we're just going to wrap back over it So we have a nice smooth body. Keeps our tinsel body nice and smooth. So now we'll tie in our tinsel, and you'll see that I've cut this at an angle, so it makes it easier to tie it in here. And we're going to tie it in with the silver side out. Tie it in right here, and then we'll fold it and begin our wraps. Working our way back, nice even wraps. Keep some nice tension, keep that angle going back. And we'll come back forward again. Touching turns. See, we keep it nice and smooth. And we tie it down right here. So now we're ready to put on the underwing, which will be our squirrel tail. So we take a small clump of squirrel tail, and we'll measure this to be about halfway past the tail. Alright, squirrel tail is a little slippery, so we need to kind of pay attention how we put this in. So again, nice pinch wrap, straight down. Let's do another one. A couple more turns, and we can come in and cut this at an angle. And tie this down. Alright, and now our overwings. We'll use that same technique we used before. We come in here and we cut just up to the notch. Lift it. And we have a slip. And then we'll do that on the other side. And marry them up. So as I did on the tail, I've got my wings, my feather slips, and I've lined up the ends of them, and we're going to lay those on top. We're going to measure them to be about 3/4 of the way past the tail, or the length of the tail. We'll pinch them here nice and tight. Again, one fairly loose wrap, and then the second wrap, pinching tight here with my left hand. I pull straight down so that they stay on top of the hook, and I make a couple more wraps. And then I've got my wing. Alright, clip that off, and we'll just clean this up. And then we'll whip finish this, change over to the stronger thread. For our collar and head, we'll take some deer hair and we'll pull off about a little bit less than a pencil width, maybe half a pencil width. Let's get some here. And we need to clean off the under first, so take a comb, we can just kind of brush through here and get a lot of that out. And then we'll take our hair stacker and we have some nice even tips up here. Pull those out, get rid of the strays, a couple of strays here. And we go put this on our hook. So I swapped threads and I've started it back on the hook, back to where we left off at where the wing was. So we want to measure this collar to be about halfway on the wing, probably about where the hook point's going to be. We hold these up. And you don't need to cut these, but I think it's a little easier if you just kind of at least trim them so they're even. And then we want to make a loose wrap, and then come up and just start to tighten it and make a second wrap that's a little tighter so that it starts to flare, like so. And then we'll make a third wrap that flares even more, and then we'll let it spin. So I've got a nice collar that spins around, and then I can work my way through the front, see? And then we want to pull these back and wrap a dam in front. To hold them all back. And we go back to our deer hair and we get another clump that's just a little bit smaller than the first one. And this one we don't need to stack this one, but we still want to remove all the fuzzies under here. So comb it out. And this one we want to flip so that we're actually tying the butt ends towards the rear of the hook. So now that we have our deer here, we don't need this whole length. So we're going to come in here and cut some of this off, about like so, and then we'll lay them up in here. And the same thing as last time, we come and make one loose wrap, and then on the second one we tighten it a little bit so they start to flare. And then on the third one it flares more, and then we let it spin like so. And then work our way through the fibers, through the hair to the front, and then we just pack it a little bit with our fingers just to pull it back, and then wrap a dam. And you just build up a little bit of a head just to kind of hold those hairs back. And this can get a little tricky trying to do a whip finish with all that hair in the way. But we can just cut away any fibers or any hair that gets in her, that doesn't want to cooperate. Now you'll notice when I dealt with that hair, I used a different pair of scissors. I use a pair of regular hair scissors, and it's a lot better than using your micro point scissors. It won't dull the ends, and it's just better for using hair. So if you can go out and just get another pair of scissors, I think you'd appreciate it. All right, now we go back to our razor blade, and we can just bend it a little bit, like so. See, I just bend it, and I come in here, and I can start forming the head. Just brush it all back, like so. So we cut away everything that doesn't look like a sculpin. And the bottoms are usually of a sculpin are usually pretty flat, so we'll just let that go flat, and then we'll just keep working. So the problem with doing sculpin heads or muddler heads is knowing when to stop, because I can end up over trimming this too much. But I try to get these. I want just a natural hair ends in the collar, and not the butt end. So I try to get a lot of those out. So you can just take your time and play with it as much as you want, so it looks about right to you. The fish aren't going to really know if you've got too much or not enough. So I think that looks pretty decent right there. That'll serve its function. So now we can throw a little head cement on here. And we have a muddler minnow.